Hey y'all. First off, I just want to introduce myself. Most of you know me. I think all of you do. I'm not sure who's in the group, but I'm Tennille. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I'm in recovery for um, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Currently, like a little bit of grief and mourning, and trying to handle that. But um, so first off, I want to say how proud I am of all of you for taking that initiative and doing your step study and sticking through it for this long. It's hard to do. Like, it's a routine, it's a management of having to do it every week, and then like life happens and things happen in your life and it's a struggle. So I'm proud of you for making it where you're at right now and doing this inventory. Um, this inventory does get in depth. Really makes you look at things in your life, what has happened to you, what have you done with others. But I feel like it's the most important step, or most important part of your step study. You learn a lot during that time, and sometimes you learn that things weren't your fault. Sometimes you learn that you could have handled things a little bit differently. But it's part of our growth and our learning, and growing as human beings and growing through Christ with Celebrate Recovery. And I hope you get out of this inventory as much as others have gotten. And if you don't, that's okay too. There's no right or wrong way to do this as long as you're doing it. So don't feel the pressure that you have to have 15 sheets filled out because someone else has 15 sheets. You may only have 2 or 1. There's no maximum number of sheets and there's no minimum number of sheets. So just do it at your own pace. And I think that's it. I apologize now for saying because I already realized I'm saying that a lot. So I'm going to go through the Celebrate Recovery inventory worksheet with you. I am going to present this as if I am Belle from Beauty and the Beast. I think most of us know that story. If you don't, it's really simple. Google search says, it's a princess that falls in love with this beast that was cursed to become a beast. He was a prince. He was cursed to become a beast because he was vain and self-centered and didn't really care about things. So someone, I don't even remember who cursed him. Obviously, probably a witch. But anyway, so he's cursed and he's in this castle and he must find true love before his 21st birthday, which is when the rose petals fall, which is the symbol of the rose. And then, Belle's dad stumbles into the castle and becomes his prisoner. So then Belle goes and finds him. And then Belle offers herself instead of her dad so that her dad can get back to the village and work and stuff. And then Beast wants Belle to fall in love with him so that he can turn back into the prince. And that's kind of where it goes. They eventually fall in love. It's a Disney story, so they fall in love and they get married and all that. So I'm gonna go through the inventory worksheet as if I was Belle. So if I was Belle, this is how I'd present myself. Hello, my name is Belle. I'm a grateful believer in Celebrate Recovery, and I'm in recovery for codependency, grief of losing my mother, possible PTSD from my life events, and a Stockholm Syndrome survivor. So I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to switch angles so you can see my worksheets better. Okay, I hope this is working the right way. I just I recorded it already and realized I was sideways, so I'm trying it again. So, I apologize again for the and any time I'm stalling or anything delayed. Just collecting my thoughts. It's kind of weird being on video camera, so that just dated myself saying that. But anyway, so this is the inventory worksheet. This is the original. I ended up making copies, but my printer is apparently running out of ink, so it's really faded. So I'm going to be referencing this sheet as my original and then going back off the first one. So again, remember, you can have one person on a sheet or you can put multiple people on a sheet. You just got to separate them. You'll see when I do the first one. I personally like to do it one person on a sheet just so I can organize it better when I go to write my testimony. You may not use all of these in your testimony. You may use all of them. You may use one. You may use 10, however many you want. And then also you may only have one paper, or you may have 20 papers, or any number in between, or beyond 20. There is no minimum number of papers you need, and there's no maximum number of papers you need. So let's get started. The first person that I have for an inventory worksheet that I'm going to talk about is Belle herself, me, as I am presenting myself as Belle. Belle, actually, we're going to do it like this so you can see. So here's my original. You can see it's faded. So let me scoot this over into camera better. Myself, or Belle. She is very codependent on others. She presents herself as being independent, and she is for that time, but she's still very codependent on others and her dad. She suffers from Stockholm Syndrome. She falls in love with her captor. She's literally a prisoner in a castle, and she falls in love with him. That is the truest definition of Stockholm Syndrome. She has fear over her dad. She slightly humiliates Gaston. He doesn't deserve that. He is the villain. He is not a good guy. He's narcissistic, but he doesn't deserve humiliation. And then she's kind of arrogant towards the town folk, or the townspeople, the village around her. So if you see the codependence here, the Stockholm Syndrome here, and this is here. So these all could be on one paper, or I did 3 different things on one paper. Or I could do 3 different papers. Just however you want to organize it. So she ends up relying on others. So I'm going to go all through codependency first. So she ends up relying on others due to her codependency. She has an unhealthy dependence on anybody, and she has a need for control in a sense. Because kind of her life is uncontrollable. She has an unhealthy and unrealistic relationship with others, which I said, kind of goes with relying on others, which can be very dangerous. She brushes, or oftentimes codependency is brushed off as empathy, and they're not one and the same. You can be empathetic and have codependency, and you can be codependent and have empathy. But having empathy does not mean you need to be codependent on anybody. They are not hand in hand. They do not mean one or the other. She has a dangerous connection to a literal beast. Beast, who we later learn his name is Prince Adam. Beast is a literal wild animal. He is dangerous. And she connects with him on some level. And then she's always trying to please her dad. So she's codependent with her dad, always trying to seek approval from him and please him, even though he's so distant and checked out. All right, so then this Stockholm Syndrome. I move this up a little bit. All right, Stockholm Syndrome. She begins to think that being trapped, but thinking it was okay because he's a prince and he has a nice castle and a big library. I don't know if you can hint to the sarcasm there. Just because they have nice things and they can offer you nice things does not mean they are nice people. She has a sympathy for dangerous people and situations, and she has an unhealthy bond or connection to people. Stockholm Syndrome and being a prisoner and stuff is a form of psychological abuse. Oftentimes it leads to other types of abuse, but this is a Disney story, so it's just psychological abuse. So there's no fault of Belle in this. There's no fault to her. She's not at fault for any of it. No abuse will ever lead to being your fault. And making this X as a person who's gone through an abusive relationship, this X is probably the most healing X I've ever made in my life. Just being able to say, no, I wasn't at fault. Just because society and your own family and friends make you think you're at fault because you were drinking with them, or you were arguing with them. You led them to hit you. No, there is no such reason ever that abuse is your fault. And that is a most beautiful X. And the last part here. So her mother's death was really traumatic for her dad and her. She ended up being, her only friend was her dad because they kind of just connected together and they distanced themselves and separated themselves. She can read and she does chores at home, but she doesn't do chores with others. She thinks that's below her to do chores out in the town like the other women do. And the other women couldn't read that much. It wasn't common for women to read. So she was above them. This led her to have no friends. It led her to believe that her dad was going to leave her as two, either by choice or by health or whatever reason. And then this damages reputation. This one was for Gaston because she humiliated Gaston and his advancements in public. And this damaged his reputation, which later comes back as like he's obsessed with her, which we'll get into later. And then her belief and her, arrogance led to hurting others in the town. She didn't really have reason to be that way to the town folks, and she was. And then the loss of her mother led to a trauma bond or a psychological damage connection to her dad, that trauma bond, and that trauma bond can be manipulative in different ways, either on purpose or on accident. The people in the bond may not even know that it's being manipulative until later on when they're doing their own step study and realizing, oh, this was really hurtful. So that's for Belle. So the next one is, I got Maurice, which is Belle's dad. So this one I'm going to slide it across. I'm going to make sure I'm in camera view. I keep looking at my camera. All right, so Maurice, Belle's dad, he ended up sheltering Belle. He was very overprotective of her once her mom died. He had this fear of losing her, but at the same time, he devoted himself to work and not to raising his child, which kind of left Belle on her own, which made her super independent at a very early age. And then, he lost his wife too, and he wasn't allowed or given the proper time to grieve and mourn and heal from that. This led to Belle being super naive of the world around her. Her dad ended up being super controlling of things, which then led to Belle being controlling. Maurice, her dad, was putting time into working rather than raising the family that he had that was still alive. And then he allows Belle to trade with him as Beast's prisoner. He is the one that gets captured by Beast first. And for some reason, he's okay with Belle going in for him, which is really like, I don't know. That's not how parents should be. I think, maybe not. Maybe that's just what I think. But it's very dark. So this all results as Belle being very out of touch with reality. She ends up having daddy issues and all of those emotions and problems that result in having daddy issues. She has low self-worth. She and her dad both have low self-worth. Even though they present themselves as being better than others, they truly do not have that much worth in themselves. And then Belle is always seeking his approval for whatever it is. She's always trying to get his attention, and to get his attention is getting his approval. So this all leads to Belle not having a connection with others. We don't actually see this in the movie. We can assume that in the movie because she doesn't have friends. She doesn't talk to people in the town. She has no connection. She ends up making a connection with Beast, but that's not a healthy connection. So, this is a possibility. I'm not sure if that's 100% true based on like the movie that we see, but we can assume it to be true. And then the manipulation and lack of empathy he has towards his daughter is abuse. So for that part of this, it would be the X. Belle is not at fault for the lack of empathy and the manipulation and the neglect that her dad gave to her. That's all forms of abuse. So that's the second one. The third one. I have his Beast, which I think I stated earlier that I learned his name was Prince Adam. I always thought him as Beast. It's kind of like Tangled, we never realize is Rapunzel, and like Sleeping Beauty is Princess Aurora. Just because the title of their movie doesn't have their name in it, and their name doesn't get referenced too much in the movie. So you didn't realize that they actually have a name, and it's Prince Adam. So, Prince Adam is locked in a castle. He is mean, and he projects his anger about being locked and about being cursed onto others, onto his staff that are now the inanimate objects, onto Belle, onto Maurice, onto anybody that comes near him. And then he's kind of vain and shallow, which leads to the reason he was cursed. I don't remember the exact reason from the story, but he was kind of selfish and self-centered and didn't care, and whoever was cursed him to find true love, and that true love was not based on looks. So he had to find somebody that loved him for him. Before his 21st birthday, I have to preface that. So Beast is only 21 in the movie, and Belle is 17. Or I guess Beast would be like 20, almost 21, because she falls in love with him like just in the nick of time. Anyways, that's a side point. Sorry. Beast makes everyone else feel like they have to be pressured to help him because they don't want the mean side. They don't want the anger to come through, so they're all pressured to help him, which leads to unhealthy codependency, and also leads to unhealthy connections and willingness to connect because the castle was nice. So he thought Prince Adam thought everyone should like him because it's a nice castle, and he throws extravagant parties and this food and this drinks, and like it was just the coolest parties. But then someone cursed him and took all that away. So the damage that this caused, everyone fears him at first. He ends up, when he turns back into Prince Adam, he ends up being a really good guy, but he is a beast first and foremost. He is dangerous. This builds a dangerous trauma bond to her captor. Belle, bonds with Beast, connects to him. That's the Stockholm Syndrome. And then Belle develops feelings while under duress. This is dangerous. It's developing feelings for your abuser. It's developing feelings for your captor. It's not healthy. It's not normal. It's you're connected to the moment in the trauma, and it's not true. Causes a lot of psychological problems. So the abuse and the projecting his anger and the Stockholm Syndrome part of it all, Belle is not at fault. There is none that she is at fault for. Cross that off. Do not put anything there. Cross it off if you want to cross it off. That big X is very healing, or just writing none and shadowing it out and drawing it in. Maybe draw it in neat and cool and artsy, because that's just fun and a break from the development you're doing. However you want to do it. There is no fault of Belle at this point. The abuse is not your fault. This goes to the Stockholm Syndrome connection. So she's technically not at fault, but I, as a 21st century woman, believe that she should have left and stayed away. So this is where I have to disconnect and realize, no, this was 1600s. This is not normal for my time, but it's normal for her time. So she was allowed to leave to visit her father when he became sick. Beast let her go, and she decided to return on her own. Mind you, it was because of Gaston had made a death threat and was on a manhunt for him. A witch hunt to kill him. So she ran back to protect him. But again, that's the trauma bond of being connected to someone because of the Stockholm Syndrome. So this is still technically not her fault. But this could be a reason why all this felt like it could be her fault. All right, next one. Moving along. Keep on rolling. All right, number 4, we have Gaston. All right. Gaston is vain and shallow and obsessive, and he is the truest definition of narcissist. If you were to look up the definition of narcissist, that explains Gaston to a T. There is no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. His actions and how others perceived him made him think that he was godlike, like he was bigger than a prince and a king, like nobody should reject him. Like any woman would be lucky to even have him look in their direction. But Belle did reject him, and that led to him not handling it. He didn't know how to handle it because nobody had rejected him before. He got whatever he wanted whenever he wanted, which led him to be obsessed with Belle because he saw her as a prize at that point, a game. He was not in love with Belle. He just wanted to win. This obsession caused others to despise Belle. Nobody could figure out why Gaston liked Belle and why he wanted her and not them. So they just ended up hating her even more. It led to the unhealthy motivation because it became a prize, a game. So he wasn't motivated by the right reasons. And he didn't take her no, I should put that in quotes, on his advancements. He didn't take no as an answer, which is a very dangerous habit, even today. Accept no and move on. He did not take that. He became stalker-like and obsessed-like. The obsession and the stalker is no fault of Belle. None. You cannot control. That's a form of abuse. You cannot control someone stalking you and being obsessed with you. It's very dangerous behavior, even in the smallest amount, even if they're just watching your every move on social media. It's dangerous, and it's not fault of Belle. Others will see his obsession with her as commitment, and then she might possibly start to have like those societal influences if she wasn't captured by a beast, obviously. And she might fall for him, but it was never, true love. And then Belle becomes protective, very protective of beasts because of Gaston's dislike for him and the death threats towards beasts, also because of the Stockholm Syndrome. So there's a couple steps that led to her being protective, unnecessarily protective of beasts, because he's a beast. He can protect himself. All right, last one that I have. There's a hair. Sorry about that. This one may be a stretch, but I wanted to show that the person or the event that you put here does not have to be a big event. It doesn't have to be some ginormous traumatic thing that happened. It could be something small or something that you deem small or that society might deem small. It could be you got fired from a job. That's not a big thing, but maybe the reason behind it or the abuse, I guess, or whatever happened that led to getting fired was pretty traumatic. But being fired doesn't mean it can't fit here. It can be something you put in your inventory. So the town folk, the village, the townspeople, they ended up secluding Belle and her father, Maurice. They were really unfriendly. The "it takes a village" quote comes from like this era, Belle's era, where like people did work together to raise children, especially when a parent passed away. Someone would step in to help the other parent, and this for some reason did not apply to their family. When Belle's mom died, somebody in that village should have reached out and offered food, offered help to raise Belle. Should not have left that on Maurice, because at that time in this era, fathers did not raise their children. They were the father figure. They were the workers. They came home and disciplined. If that, it was always the mothers. And nobody stepped up when her mother died. So Belle ended up feeling like she didn't need them, almost in retaliation for them being unfriendly and secluding her. Like, you didn't help me, so I don't need you. She felt she was above them because she ended up being super independent on her own at a very early age. So she thought she was above all the other women in the village. And then she didn't think she needed support from others, which we know this now as being false. Even if you are the most super independent person around, you need others occasionally, either emotional support, mental support, or just you need somebody to be in company with you during hard times. When you're going through something hard, you call on your friends and you call on your accountability partners and your sponsor. We all need somebody at some point. Okay, next column. No one was willing to help. That goes back to this village part. She had no supportive role models. Her dad devoted himself to work, and she secluded herself, and she didn't see what a good role model looks like. She didn't see what an adult looks like, because she just didn't try to see that. So, and then that leads to the unhealthy relationship expectations. She lost her mom at a very early age. She doesn't have very many memories of her mom and her dad together. So she didn't have any sort of normal expectations of what a man and a woman look like in love and what true love looks like. She didn't have any reference for that. So when she fell in love with Beast, or she thought she fell in love with Beast, she thought that was okay because she had nothing to compare it to. All right. Belle was very smart. She read a lot. She talked to the librarian, but she knew how to communicate with others, and she knew how to communicate because of the book she was reading. There's communication in the books. There's dialogue in the book. She knew how to. She may have had anxiety, social anxiety, that led her to have trouble communicating, but she knew how to communicate. Belle also knew how to do basic chores. She just did them at home. She chose not to go to the town and do it with the women in the river where the women were all washing their laundry and stuff. So in a sense, she just chose to be more secluded. That goes back to the retaliation. Like, nobody offered to help, so she's going to do it this way anyway, like, in spite of them. And then by acting like she was better than them, she ended up pushing them away further. So she didn't, yes, they secluded her, and yes, they were unfriendly and didn't help, but then she shut them out as well, which it just keeps driving that wedge into relationships. Just because one person does it doesn't mean you should do it too. So it led to pushing them out even further. So that is it that I have for Belle. I do want to preface or state that, I don't know if you saw this, but I numbered my sheets. You can see this, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that's the order I want to present them. But you can number them in the order of the most significant. I think myself should be first personally, but that is up to you how you want to do it. So order it in significance, or order it by theme, or you can order it chronologically. I did it kind of by significance. So it's herself, and then her dad, and then Beast. Actually, Beast could probably be second, and then her dad, and then Gaston and Townfolk was obviously last. So you can order these however you want to order these. When you go to write your inventory or write your testimony, you may use these very verbatim for what you have. You may take notes off of them. You may not use all of them. Like if I was writing my testimony for Belle, I probably wouldn't put much about, like, the Townfolk, maybe like a paragraph, but like the most of the testimony is going to be about herself, Maurice, and Beast. Like, there's going to be touched on Gaston, and there's going to be touched on, the Townfolk, and there may be more beyond the story that Disney tells that she may touch on, but it's going to be the bulk of it's going to be the big people in her life. So, again, I think that's it. Super proud of you for where you're at right now in doing your inventory. Super proud of you for taking that step to do step study, whether it's your first time doing it, or your 12th time doing it, or your 20th time doing it. As a person that has done it twice, I've done my step study twice now, and I'm looking to do it my third. You get something out of it every time you do it. And I'm really excited to see what I'm going to get out of it doing it my third time. Especially since a lot has happened in my life traumatically since my second time. So I'm very curious to see what my inventory is going to look this time, because it's going to be a lot about self-healing and being mad at things that are inanimate. So, that's a lot about me. I'm sorry I took it about me. So I think that's all. Proud of you all, proud of you all, proud of you all. I am proud of you all. I can't wait to see your testimonies when you get there. Please let me know. If you and I are friends, message me and let me know so I can come support you. And I think that's all. Oh, when you're done with your inventory, present it to your sponsor. Also, not a lot of people do this, but when you go to give your testimony for the first time, for sure, but maybe for the first 5-10 times, if you're nervous, reach out to your sponsor and have your sponsor be there. It means a lot as a sponsor and as a sponsee to be wanted during that time, during that testimony, because that's a big, huge part of the step study and like the result of the step study. Also have your sponsor there when you graduate. Like, these are big moments. These are big maturing moments. We're all, like, as a sponsor, I'm incredibly proud of my sponsees. Whether it's their first time or their 12th time. It's exciting, it's growth, it's maturing, and we like to see that. So, I think that's it. Love you all. Hope I did it. Hope I explained it well, and enjoy.